How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? What's the real truth about Citizen Kane?
It'll probably turn out to be a very simple thing.
Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm Parker.
And I'm Max.
And welcome back to another episode of Better Than Citizen Kane, the highly subjective show where we look at a movie and ask that titular question. Because when every movie ever made is a reasonable contender for the title of greatest film of all time, you have to wonder, better than Citizen Kane.
So, restock on ammo and crank that engine, because this week we're saying hello to freedom and flying in the Adriatic as we soar into our discussion of Hayao Miyazaki's underrated gem, Porco Rosso, 1992. Parker, Porco Rosso. PR. Same initials.
Yeah.
Does that have any sway on you choosing this for your birthday episode this year?
Absolutely.
I
find that all of my favorite films gravitate around my own name. So my favorite filmmaker being Nick Park,
Sure.
So, PR. I think we're it's
favorite
nice.
movie, Porco Rosso.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'd never made that connection before, actually, with the initials. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. Porco Rosso. Now, we talked about this a little bit at the end of our last episode, but considering that the audience for Stalker versus Porco Rosso, there's a Venn diagram there for sure.
Sure.
But I don't know how wide-reaching it is. Let's talk about this. Let's just address the elephant in the room really quick.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't covered Miyazaki before.
No, which is shocking considering he is such a Mount Rushmore filmmaker for the both of us, it seems.
He is a core text for both of us, as I understand it.
Yeah.
The first movie we saw together in theaters was Spirited Away.
Mm-hmm.
Decidedly not the movie we're covering today.
No, which would
the
be
movie
kind
that is
of
widely
the one.
considered his greatest film.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite.
Yeah. It's really good.
It's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
Is it maybe his technically best?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite. Parker, this is your favorite Miyazaki film.
It is. It's one of those things of... It is within, a hair's margin between this and Kiki's. I adore Kiki's. And, depending on the day, they'll swap. But, this is kind of... It's one of those things of... You start getting known as the guy who likes a particular movie, and then you kind of latch onto that. And that was one of those things people knew that I liked Porco Rosso. And since then, it's kind of been something I latched onto this thing now, So while Kiki's is a close second, it is my favorite. It's
become a part of my understanding of you.
Exactly.
As my friend, as a figure in the world, I'm like, Porco Rosso is big for Parker.
Indeed.
And yet I'm not sure I know exactly when you saw this for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, here's the thing, Parker, is that because we haven't done Miyazaki before, we have a lot of groundwork to cover before we can even get to Porco Rosso, because this is a filmmaker who's so important. Obviously, we are not going to dive into his filmography. I think at one point we discussed just covering a lot of Miyazaki as a whole.
Let's just get it all out of the way.
Rather than having to be we have to play favorites. We have to do one by itself first.
Yep.
But we have to do a little bit of groundwork. So talk to the audience and myself, but mostly the audience, as we've talked about this before,
of course,
about where your Miyazaki journey begins and how long it took to get to Porco Rosso, because this isn't a movie that comes up for people early.
Yeah.
I feel this is a movie that people get to eventually if they decide to.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like many of my stories here on this podcast, it starts in my local library. We love public libraries. It began with Kiki's. Kiki's was the first Ghibli film I ever saw. It was, we'd go and we'd pick out a bunch of movies to watch. And this one was sitting on the shelf, and I liked the cover. It has Kiki and Gigi and Tombo and the rapscallions in their little car over in the corner. I was like, oh, this looks like a movie I would like. At this point, I think my exposure to anime was probably pretty solidly like the Pokemon TV show,
Yeah.
That was what the frame of reference I knew. But we took it home and we loved it. Like, just our family like fell in love with this movie. And then it became just seeking out all the rest. Castle in the Sky was another big early one for us. And then Spirited Away was an interesting little like curio of my grandmother, who we talked about on the Crouching Tiger episode, would just get get different movies, and they were kind of awards movies. They were movies that were important that adults were watching, and she had at least one copy, maybe even two, of Spirited Away. And so like I watched that at my grandmother's house growing up, and I was like, oh, okay, this one was kind of scary a little bit, but like, really good. And and then it just kind of fell down the rabbit hole from there. And it's interesting you say that people get to Porco later, because I also, if memory serves, I either got to Porco at the very end of high school or the very beginning of college.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it was late. It was late stage for me. It was one of those that, again, like by this point I was fully Miyazaki pilled, but hadn't really dove into his stuff. Or maybe it was that my library didn't have it. I'm not sure. I know I watched Cagliostro before I watched Porco, which is surprising.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's
interesting. That's Miyazaki's film before Ghibli.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the very first. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's kind of my journey with Ghibli, and then kind of ending with where Porco lands in that for me. What about you?
I mean, so my dad lived in Japan for 2 years, which is the the outside of Utah way of saying serving a religious mission. And he came back from that. He saw Totoro while he was there, he lived in Japan. He saw Totoro somewhere. Honestly, I should probably have consulted him on this, but he saw Totoro there. He brought it back. Well, he didn't bring it back. He came back. Years go by. Eventually, my sister and I exist. And Totoro, here's the thing is, I was not a Disney kid almost at all. Aside from my sister liked Fox and the Hound. We watched Robin Hood from time to time. And then I had Aladdin, Tarzan, Hercules. I had the boy Disney movies. Boy movies. And those were the ones, but even then, we didn't own Aladdin. We would get it from the library. I grew up primarily on a lot of, I as far as movies for kids, Ghibli was more of the thing that I grew up on. Totoro is something that I don't remember the first time I saw. That has just always been a part of my life. Sure. And now that I'm 25, I cry all the way through Totoro.
Good movie.
It starts and I just have a steady stream of small light tears the entire time. And so I know that we worked our way through all of them because my sister and I eventually became very interested in them. And I remember, we had the DVDs of Totoro and Kiki's and Mononoke. We saw Howl's Moving Castle in theaters. I remember seeing that in theaters and being like, whoa. Spirited Away, I was terrified of. I was petrified of Spirited Away because of the pig scene. I just didn't like when her parents turned into pigs. Terrifying. But we would just watch these. This was just if I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to watch a Hayao Miyazaki movie. And I know that I saw Porco somewhere early on in my life. But it wasn't one that we owned for a really long time. And my dad would always be like, oh, that one's great. We really should buy Porco at some point. And it just took a handful of years, which at the time felt like obviously my entire lifetime that we didn't own Porco when we owned most of the rest.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it might have been a situation where either we got it at the library, or if my library didn't have it, we ordered it from Netflix in the mail. It was probably one of those. So it was just kind of this is what we grew up with. Kiki's is my personal favorite. That one has only gone on to mean the most to me. When we were kids, that was my sister's favorite. I mean, my childhood cat was named after Gigi. These movies are a core part of who I am. And Porco, I'm sure I watched when I was younger. I think Porco and Nausicaa were the two that I watched the least when I was a kid, just for lack of having them around.
Sure.
And then at some point, it was probably in late high school, early college, I like revisited it. Like we finally bought it. And I was like, oh yeah, right. This one is really fun. And then I showed it to friend of the show, Jose. Like he and I watched all of the Miyazaki films together, like at some point in college. And it's steadily grown for me where I'm like, oh, this might be like, if not top 5, top 10 easy. And there's like 13 total, I think, at this point. So it's like, if it's in the top 10, but like they're all good. So like it's hard for me, but I do think Porco is higher up for me now than it was even 10 years ago, obviously. Yeah. So, and I think a large part of that has come from you encouraging me to like, I've watched it with you a few times. I think we saw it in theaters we've seen it in theaters together twice.
We have.
Which is wonderful. That's a wonderful thing to have happen.
Yeah. You, me, and our friend Mike going together was a great time. Just the three lads.
Yeah, the 2023 Ghibli Fest going. And then last year going with like my partner at the time and like my really good friend, like my old roommate. Like,
yeah, good group.
The times that we've seen it in theaters has been really fun. And the thing about Porco Rosso that is so great is when you watch it at home, you go, man, this movie is really funny. But when you watch it in a theater with a crowd, you're like, this movie rules. Yeah. Like, and the same thing happened with Castle in the Sky, where like, these are movies that I grew up watching just on TV with my family. Yeah. And then, with you, like every once in a while we'd get a group together and watch Porco Rosso or what have you. But like seeing them in the theater with an audience, you're like, oh, these are like movies. Like specifically Porco and Castle in the Sky are like guns blazing action movies that are really fun for everybody. Which is wild considering Porco's origin story. Yeah. Which I'm going to ask you to tell a little bit about now.
Okay, so Porco Rosso begins its life as a 15-page manga by Hayao Miyazaki, published in Model Graphics, a monthly magazine about scale models. As part of like a 3-part series that he did for them.
When was that? Because the movie comes out between Kiki's and Mononoke.
Publication date would be 89.
Okay.
So it ran
right
for
around
a couple
the time
months,
that Kiki's
from
came
March to May of 1989. Great. Is when this runs. Called The Age of the Flying Boat is the title of the manga.
Wonderful.
From there,
a likely title.
A likely title
for Miyazaki to have.
From there, it was optioned as a in-flight short film by Japan Airlines.
Yes.
And so that's when this begins development as an anime. It's like, okay, we're going to make this as a film. And essentially what happens is that Miyazaki just keeps having ideas for it. Just over and over and over again. Both things creative he wants to do out in the world. War breaks out in Yugoslavia, and that starts kind of influencing the film and what he has to say about it. Because the manga is... It's weird to say lighthearted. It's much more lighthearted because, like, I wouldn't consider Porco to be like a dark film, but like, it has things on its mind. Like it has some heavy topics that it's orbiting around.
It almost feels like it's somewhat his most straightforwardly political film.
Totally.
In the sense that it's set in a time on our Earth with real life historical politics going on and things to say about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Really, the only one that I can think of that maybe has it beat in that regard is like Wind Rises.
Right. But even then, The Wind Rises is so much more about an artist's journey.
Totally.
With the war as being like a means for that art's production. And we'll get to The Wind Rises one day, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But this is like, Porco is directly saying... like saying lines that are just it's very direct, I should say.
Yeah.
I think The Wind Rises is absolutely, you have to make a good case, but The Wind Rises is doing a lot more like artistically with that, and it's tied more into that theme, whereas this movie is just kind of like has a detour where it's like, oh, by the way, this is his political opinion, this is his backstory.
Totally. I mean, okay, it is saying a lot when you consider that, like, especially it's been interesting in the past I don't know, it feels like the past like 3 or 4 years specifically, online, like the takeaway from this movie is better pig than a fascist. Like that is kind of the iconic line that comes from this. And it's like, yeah, like that's, you're not hearing that in Nausicaa, you know? Like, no. Like you said, it's very pointed in that way.
In Nausicaa, you're looking at a big melty atomic bomb man.
Exactly.
And going, do you think, mate? And they keep being like, this is why the world fell. And you go, oh, maybe. Oh. And they go, who could possibly pollute the entire world? And you go, do you guys think?
Exactly.
I love all these movies.
Yeah,
this is
great movies. Yeah.
Having fun.
But yeah, so it's kind of influenced by real world events. Miyazaki keeps having these ideas. Interestingly, Japan Airlines stays on as a major investor in the film, and they showed it in flight well before it was released,
right?
Which is interesting. Additionally, that's why the opening text of, that's why it's in all of these different languages, because it was shown on international flights.
But also that part just is so good anyway.
It's
like,
really
even
great.
If you don't know that, you're just
really
like, wow,
good.
What a great little open. It's great.
Yeah, it's very, very charming. Yeah, so that's kind of the inception of the film. Obviously, anybody who has watched other Miyazaki films has kind of dug into his filmography. You'll know that flight is a huge thing for him, both personally and artistically. A lot of his films are just kind of orbiting around that. And this is very, very directly pointed at. Like, the name Ghibli for the studio comes from an airplane engine,
Yeah, which appears in this film.
It does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of the precursor to all of this. Max, do you know off the top of your head, I wish I had it pulled up, but like what films in Ghibli's lineup predate this? Or more specifically, like Miyazaki's lineup?
Oh, I can tell you.
Yeah,
I can tell you easy. Well, so you have Nausicaa first, and then it's Castle in the Sky.
Yep.
And then it's Totoro. And then it's Kiki's.
Okay.
And then it's this. So this
I was
is
trying
his
to.
fifth,
I couldn't remember if Totoro.
This is his fifth feature film.
Okay.
Yeah, because Kiki's is 89, and this is 92, and Totoro is not in the 90s. So, yeah, this is his fifth feature within Ghibli, sixth overall. And it does fall at a really interesting point where I feel like you have Miyazaki's 80s, where you have. You have Nausicaa, Castle in the Sky, Totoro, Kiki's, where you go, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you might as well do that. And they're all, Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky kind of go in a pair, where it's kind of like, this might be an interesting line of thought if you'll follow me here. Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky kind of go in a hand in hand as far as like, very high sci-fi action message of towards the environment, right? And then you have like airships and princesses with symbols and what have you, and then you have Totoro and Kiki's, which are kind of like very charming stories of young girls kind of finding out who they're going to be a little bit more, stepping forward into their lives and kind of finding independence in a way through some sort of magical force. Is assistance potentially? This is watering these movies down. Porco is 92, and Mononoke is 97.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's this, if people didn't know Porco Rosso existed, there would just be this really long gap where you go, yeah, it would make sense that like Kiki's happens, and then almost 10 years later, he's doing Mononoke.
Yeah, it's time for his epic.
That is like, that's a huge jump as far as like tone and what he's doing. I mean, Mononoke and Nausicaa also have similarities, but like the tone shift is wild.
Yeah.
And yet, Porco kind of stands on its own because there are no other movies that really feel like Porco.
Yeah.
Because it feels, and I was thinking about this watching this, it feels advanced from Kiki. Like, Kiki's, again, has my entire heart. I love that movie. I owe it so much. But, like, that animation is still very, like, it's in line with what we've seen before.
Sure.
Porco has something else going on. When there are sequences in this in which, like, especially in this opening sequence when he's first, like, tracking down these seaplane pirates. and they're like, oh, here he comes, and then there's this quick shot of the plane like coming at them, and the animation is ridiculous, especially considering like this is hand drawn, this is still pre-digital, and like planes eventually in a lot of animated movies, especially in America, will just be 3D objects. They will just be that. It's way easier.
Yeah, because machinery is complicated to draw in perspective. It always has been, and so makes sense.
And this movie has wild perspective work on all of the planes. There's dogfights in this, and you're kind of like, okay, 12 planes, sure.
Yeah, go nuts, guys.
And in that way, like, maybe it is a good bridge from Kiki to Mononoke, because it's still working within a tone that feels familiar to Kiki's.
Yeah.
But the animation style feels like we're getting closer to the wars that we see in Mononoke. I don't know. How do you feel about where I'm at with
I
all
can totally
this?
see what you're saying with this. I think that makes a ton of sense, and I think you've got very strong legs to stand on with that argument.
Even with my conclusion kind of getting away from me at the end there, I still feel that Porco is hard to categorize.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna put an end to that.
Big old period.
Yes, period on that.
Nice. Very good.
What draws you to Porco specifically? What are the things that you love the most about this movie, and what do you enjoy the most about showing this movie to people?
It is...
for the first time.
Yeah, it's really good questions. I think that what draws me to it is... I mean, you summed it up really well already. There is a feeling I get from this film that I can't get anywhere else. There is something about the energy, something about the mood, something about the vibes of this thing that are just charming and thrilling and wildly entertaining to me. Like, I have such a good time when I watch this. So as we've discussed on the show before, you and I, both of our, kind of solidly logged film journeys with Letterboxd starts in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Good pandemic hobby. In the past 4.5 years, I guess. Yeah, that's right. I have watched this movie 11 times.
Yeah.
And there might be one or two in there that I missed logging, but like,
sure.
If we're just talking, like, I've watched this movie a lot over the past few years. And it is something that has become sort of a joke between me and our friends, is this whole thing of like, if you aren't seeing that pop up multiple times on my Letterboxd throughout the year, like, call the police, something's wrong. Like,
yeah.
Something's wrong
body
with
snatched.
Parker. Exactly. But yeah, it's just like, it is my ultimate comfort movie. It feels so effortless to return back to. I am in love with the world that it creates and the characters that populate it. I don't think there is a better PSA for like the Adriatic coast and that entire spot of the Mediterranean than this movie. Like, it looks iridescent. It looks incredible. And it's just, it has a lot of the charm that like Castle in the Sky does, of like, man, what a fun world this creates. But then you remember that like some version of this world existed, right? Like there was a time of, again, it's the name of the manga, The Age of the Flying Boat. Like, this was a popular mode of transportation, this market of seaplane pirates and bounty hunters, and like, it may not have existed exactly one-to-one as this, obviously, but like some of this, right? Shocking, I know. But like some of this existed, and that's one extra step of thrilling to me as an audience member. Just like, man, isn't that cool? Like, this movie almost convinced me to get like my private pilot's license. And then I looked up the mortality rate of like single passenger planes, and I was like, oh, 50%? Oh, cool, great. I think I'm okay. Like, I don't need it that bad. But
you don't want to enter the world above the clouds?
I don't think I do.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? As far as showing this to other people, I am always like, something I love about it is that I've shown this to a lot of different people with a lot of different tastes. And consistently going in, I felt some level of skepticism of like, he's a talking pig. It's like, yeah. Don't just go with it. Like,
well, and like also,
it won't even matter.
And also, it's like, you know that guy who made Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away? Well, in the early 90s, he made a movie about an ace pilot who fights seaplane pirates who's a pig. And if we're watching the dub, which we likely are with this group, he's voiced by Michael Keaton. Mm-hmm. And you go, and it's my favorite one.
It's my favorite one.
I feel like people are going to be like, yeah, all right. Okay. Yeah, we can watch your favorite movie.
Yeah, we'll watch the pig movie, Parker.
Weird that this is your favorite when it's the guy who did those other two that I've seen and know the music from.
Yep.
And then they watch into what happens, Parker.
They are charmed every single time. Like, again, just people that I would not anticipate. Like, I go in fully expecting that people won't like this. Like, I prep myself that I'm like, yeah, there's a chance. Like, they're fully like, it's not for everybody. I get that. But I've been pleasantly surprised of just like, people seem to have a good time with this movie when I show it to them, you know?
I think it's like, a real crowd pleaser.
It is, absolutely. And it was something I always enjoyed bringing to movie nights and getting to see in theaters, like you said, with friends in a crowd. It plays so much better to a group than you anticipate it's going to, based on like what the premise is, you know?
Yeah. Well, again, it's like, it's this thing that happens where, I don't know, like I feel like for Miyazaki's legacy, he is known as this really meticulous auteur who has shown the beauty of nature and humanity across his filmography.
Yeah.
And for there to just be a movie in his filmography that is just pure entertainment, that is a real crowd pleaser, I feel like doesn't quite fit that narrative entirely.
Totally.
Like, this feels a little, again, it's not even entirely out of it. Like, Castle in the Sky is very similar to this. I hadn't really considered that, but like in just kind of the, the adventure and airships and guns and all these different things. And yet still this just has I don't think this immediately fits into what people would think of when they think of what a Miyazaki film is.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got such an old Hollywood quality to it.
It's playing with a lot of old Hollywood tropes and characters. And like Porco himself is a noir hero.
Yeah.
He is a complex individual who's neither good nor bad. And by the end is like basically has to be reminded of his humanity. Mm-hmm. He's not just like a pig.
Right.
and even though the ending is happy, the film doesn't give us that happy ending that we fully want. Mm-hmm. It's playing with that for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. And like, it's interesting to me along those lines of coming back to what I was saying of like, oh, this movie is such a, a selling point for, the Adriatic Sea and all of that. It feels like this movie's version of that part of the world is kind of what Casablanca does for the actual real world Casablanca. Like, Casablanca, the city, never looked ever like that Warner Brothers backlot, ever. But like, you watch that movie and it's like mystery and intrigue and multiculturalism, and it's like there's an energy there, right? And it feels that same way here, where it's like, yeah, sure, there is this wonderful nightclub where the owner is this stunning radiant woman who all of the seaplane pirates fall in love with, and she sings at night, and pirates come, and like it's a
hotel / nightclub on a tiny little island that the entire island is just the hotel.
Yep. And it's like it is fully neutral. Like the good guys and the bad guys, everybody comes here and no fights happen. Like nobody fights at Gina's, right?
This movie is very much in the vein of Casablanca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way that, like you're saying, like it is unique to the rest of the catalog, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just find it to be an endlessly enjoyable experience and just very very singular in how it feels in relation to the rest of the Ghibli films, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so okay. So I watched the original Japanese version this time. It was embarrassingly my first time watching the original Japanese version of Porco Rosso.
Okay.
I just had never really gotten around to it. I meant to.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the original Japanese versions of most of the rest, I think. Like, but this one I just had never gone around to. I know for some, I don't know where I've heard this opinion before, but I feel like for some people, the dub of this one isn't great. And yet, okay, maybe we need to talk about this because I don't think we talked about it on our Akira episode. Parker, the English dubs of the Ghibli movies are good.
I think they are, genuinely.
I think they're good.
I've heard really bad English dubs of anime.
So I didn't realize that I was spoiled by Ghibli dubs.
Right.
Because every time I heard this conversation of like subs versus dubs, I was always like, right, but like dubs aren't that bad.
Yeah.
Because I'd grown up exclusively on like originally like the Fox dub of Kiki's Delivery Service. And then the Disney versions are like still also pretty good. Like they do a pretty good job with casting and like, you know, they get people. This is the first time I was going to talk about this since everything. Oh. Well, Neil Gaiman did the English adaptation of Princess Mononoke.
Right.
Like they get people to write versions. And I didn't realize how spoiled I was until I watched the English dub of Your Name like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, so this is what people mean. I had no idea.
It's kind of like, you know, living in a very nice, well-kept house, and you're like, well, this isn't that bad. And you step outside and you realize like, oh, this is a really bad neighborhood I'm in, huh? I never looked outside the Ghibli house.
People always tell you that neighborhood's terrible. And I go, I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
It's really nice. Like, it's pretty nice. Like, it's not like the best.
Sure.
It's pretty nice.
It's pretty nice.
And then I'm like, oh, all the other houses are like goop. Like they're just goop. Like I live on Goop Street.
Goop Avenue.
Yeah, I live on Goop Avenue. I didn't even know.
I had no idea.
I lived on Goop Avenue. So I like the dub for Porco Rosso.
I think it's fun.
I think that it's fun. It was done in 2005. And I think what's fun about it is that they went, okay, so we have this character. He has a secret hideout. He's a loner. You know, he saves people. He helps people. Who should we get? Michael Keaton.
Get Batman.
Because they're just saying Porco Rosso's kind of Batman.
Yeah.
But like, I think he's different and he's better.
Sure.
Potentially. Because he's also, again, he's a noir hero.
I'm
going to say that without feeling embarrassed to use the word noir.
Yeah, back it up.
Okay, well, I already did earlier.
Yeah.
But I didn't say noir at the time, so I don't know. Anyway, I think the dub is good. But the Japanese version, there are things, because again, there are things about English dubs that are just...
Localization's tough.
Inherent. Localization's tough. And something I noticed watching the Japanese version this time is there's a lot more of like a character looking at something and they've added in a line for the English dub where they like are explaining what the thing means or is. And that's going to happen. And so it was kind of interesting for me for the first time to watch the Japanese dub, or the original Japanese version, and be like, oh yeah, this is just as elegant as like a lot of the other Ghibli films.
Absolutely. It's like the dub versus sub conversation, I personally feel is like, as a general viewer, entirely up to taste. It is entirely up to preference, whatever is going to be interesting to you. If you are digging into wanting to be, digging into film studies, want to be more of a connoisseur of film history, highly recommend checking out films in their original language. I don't think that has to be exclusive, but like you should watch them. You know, I've seen all of the Ghibli films, at least all the Miyazaki films. I think there's a couple of the other stray directors that I've only heard the English dubs. Things like Cat Returns and stuff like that. But all the Miyazaki films I've watched in the original Japanese, and they're great. And genuinely, like having seen both, I stand behind it. Like, it's when I want to do easy listening on this movie, if I want to comfort watch a Porco Rosso, I'm doing the English dub because I think it's very well done. It still feels appropriate, but like recommend checking it out.
And if it were terrible, you probably wouldn't do that.
No, I would not.
Anyway, just had to get that conversation out of the way. Thank you for humoring me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do summary? Because I have a big question for you, but I think it can wait until we get through the movie.
Okay, yeah. Let's do some summary then.
I'm gonna ask Parker to marry me, everybody.
Oh man, that pressure's
on. It's been a long time coming. Just like what big question could I be asking? Yeah. I'm gonna ask Parker what his.
He really wants to know my horoscope.
I'm gonna ask him where he thinks he'll be in 5 years.
Whoa, that's a big question, man.
I'm gonna ask Parker which came first.
Oh. The pig or the plane?
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's 1929.
Mm-hmm. We get our little text intro, just kind of giving you the lay of the land of saying, hey, after the First World War, this is the world that we are set in. Seaplane pirates, the Adriatic Sea. Greatest of all is known as Crimson Pig, is kind of the general gist.
The hero of our story is named Crimson Pig.
Yep. And then we just open up on this lovely little island grotto, this beautiful getaway. This applies to all Ghibli films, but like I have such a soft spot. The background art in this movie, man, like just these islands and the oceans. Oh.
I'd like to give a shout out to the clouds.
Clouds are really. I was gonna get there.
Sure, Parker.
He's not in the plane yet. All right. Islands and oceans. He's ground level.
Oh, I'm sorry. I ruined your narrative setup.
Yeah, come on, man. I had a flow going.
I'm so sorry. So he's on an island.
There's
no clouds.
There's no clouds.
Don't even.
Not a one.
Don't even look at the sky.
Don't even look up.
He's on sand and there's water. Jesus. Shut
up. So he's on his island hideaway. Fast asleep. Got a magazine on his face. He's listening to the radio. Empty bottle of wine sitting there, and he gets a phone call. I love that he's got I love that he has service out there. I love that that's hooked up to his little radio. Gets a call from a nearby cruise liner saying, hey, we've been attacked by seaplane pirates. They took all of the valuables as well as a batch of schoolgirls. And we get to know Porco very quickly of him, saying like, well, oh, schoolgirls, like that's going to cost you extra. And like, we have a contract with you, like get over here. He's like, fine, I'm on my way. Yeah. So he comes and we meet the Mama Yuda gang, which are our lovable seaplane pirates.
And I think this is where people are mostly won over by the charm of the movie, because the seaplane pirates are kidnapping these girls, and there's like questions like, "Are we taking all of them, boss?" And he's like, "Yeah, it'd be mean to separate them." Like they are cartoon villains in the sense that like they have guns. And they will try to kill Porco Rosso, and they're going to say, and especially in the Japanese version, they hear a lot more jokes about mince the pig, turn him into hamburger meat, which I feel like the English version kind of.
It goes like skirts. It's like slice it with like bacon. One.
Yeah, but they kind of skirt around a little more. But like they're going to kill Porco Rosso, but they're sweetheart guys.
Yeah, it's our lovable antagonists. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Also, just a quick shout out in the English dub. I think Brad Garrett is fantastic as like the lead. He's so good. Like just his voice matches with like the Bluto-esque Popeye design of that character flawlessly. Yeah. It's really great.
Yeah, it's really good. And just like a shout out to the fact that this is such a simple setup that's presented and demonstrated to us so efficiently, but also like not like it's not like it's like rushing through it. It's just like here's how the world works, and you go, okay.
Yep. Fun. It's also very interesting watching, because this opening is kind of like, there are pieces of it throughout, but like this opening sequence is like the entire first part of the manga, is like this whole kidnapping. It's one particular girl in that she's like a teenage girl, instead of, all the school children. But it basically plays out almost exactly the same. But something that you're talking about of like just very, very efficient storytelling. I do love this opening because it informs us so much about our titular character in all of his interactions with other people, of his nonchalance about the, extremity of this situation while everybody else is panicking, trying to up his price there for a minute, but not really being serious about it, backing up is like, okay, fine. Like this is not someone who's going to extort other people, but we get some of his moral grayness. He shows up on the scene. Pirates have already left, and they're like, "Hey, they went that way. Like, go follow him."
Well, it's even better than that. There's a bunch of sailors making an arrow.
They make the arrow, which is also in the manga, and I love. And he goes the opposite way, and they all freak out. And no, you're going the wrong way. And he talks to them and to us as the audience, and he's like, "Relax, it's fine. I know what I'm doing. They went this way. They're gonna hop to this island." Like. He knows these guys. Like in the first 5 minutes, we are learning so much about this character and his relationship to the world around him. It's just very efficient storytelling, very quick. Yeah. So he, again, one more moment of this is, he's flying around. He thinks he spots him. There's a sightseeing plane. And I think this is so engaging, informative, I guess I should say, in what kind of world we're playing in, because in Western media, we are so used to animal man protagonist is a concept of deformity, is a concept of self-acceptance and self-love, and like that is the vehicle of the story. And so to do that, you have to have people antagonize them, right? You have to have people not want to be around them.
Yeah, it's the hunchback, it's the beast, it's the elephant man.
Totally.
I ran out of animated counterparts.
But it is 100%. And like in his interactions with this, cruise line, you can maybe Phantom of the Opera. There you go.
Sorry.
Like you're good. But like, you could maybe imply that it's like, okay, well, you hire the monster, right? He's like, well, we don't like him, but we'll keep him around, kind of thing. You could maybe make that
There's
jump.
The version of this where you go, well, he isolates himself on this island because no one wants him.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not what this is.
No, and it shows us that immediately because he finds this sightseeing plane and it's full of tourists and all the women are going crazy for him. They're like, Porco Rosso, like.
And this is what I think is interesting is in the English version, they know his name.
Mm-hmm.
In the Japanese version, the tourist group goes, "It's a pig."
Yeah.
And someone else goes like, "Hey, piggy." And then I was like, oh, interesting. Is the dynamic different? And then as he flies away, they go, "He's so cool."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, it's the same.
No, it's the same. It's the same.
They just don't know his name.
Totally. But it just, I love that like instantly we see how the rest of the world views him and treats him and how he interacts with the world. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. We know he tells them, everything we need to know.
Get out of here. This isn't a safe space for sightseeing. Yeah. He like says that mostly, again, he's mostly saying it to himself. I don't think they can hear him, and then he leaves.
Yeah, but he gives a little thumbs up. He's charming. He's flirting a little bit,
Yep. Yeah, of course. Of course he is. He's Porco Rosso.
Yeah, this dude's cool as shit, man. This
cool
guy's so cool.
If you're ever like feeling self-conscious about yourself, anybody out there, watch Porco Rosso and be like, no, this guy rocks, and people love him, and people want to like kiss him.
Whoa.
To keep it PG for some reason. We haven't made that rule before. He's a great example of just
he is a
self-confidence.
Yeah, he's a dad bod short king, and everybody loves him. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah,
I agree. Great. I completely agree. Yeah. So
he goes after the Mama Ayudo gang.
Yep, catches up with the pirates. Once again, we learn about him of he gives them an out. He gives them a signal and says, "Hey, give up the girls and the loot. I'll let you keep some for any repairs that you need. I don't want to put you
keep half the money for your repairs."
Yep.
Yeah.
And just it's also just a great example of his skill of, there are hostages on board and he is not worried about hitting anybody, right? He's like, I know that I'm going to hit the tail of that plane and I'm not going to hit any of the pirates and I'm not going to hit any of the girls, Easy peasy. Yep. This is like clockwork for this guy.
Yeah.
Shoots him down. Pirates surrender. He takes the girls, sends them on their way, gets the loot back. And I love, I don't know, it's just another thing that you were talking about of like sets the tone for this film is the girls are thrilled to be kidnapped. They're so excited about this, you know?
Yeah, they're crawling all over the plane. They're like, can we touch this? And the seaplane pilots are like, now, girls.
It's really good. And Porco's taking them all home, and he's trying to babysit, you know, this entire pack of children. And it is funny to put your tough guy noir protagonist around a bunch of children. It's just always going to be funny. In
the same way that it's funny to have your villains be very gentle and sweet with these hostages that they're taking, because they're like, we're not going to mess with the children. Like, come on.
Yep.
Really, really, really lovely opening. It's kind of a perfect introduction to the world and the characters, and there you go.
Yeah. Then we're all set. From there, we head off and get introduced to the Hotel Adriano, where Gina is the owner. And we get to, you know, like we talked about a little bit earlier, but it is this hotel, bar, nightclub that everybody goes to. You've got all of these seaplanes parked out front. I loved like all of these evening shots of Porco's plane flying through like the sunset sky. Really great clouds, Max.
What? I didn't notice.
I didn't notice.
No, I didn't notice. But before any of that, we also get the table full of all of the gangster pirate villains. This Dick Tracy level of like
it's really good.
Scarred men being like jerk pig, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a new guy in town.
Yep. I also pointing that out. I'm glad you mentioned that. Of there's a kind of interesting motif that this movie has of we jump time and space with the newspapers often. Of characters are reading newspapers and they're hearing about the events that have occurred, and that is our like tying together to get us from one place to the other. If all this happens, we cut to the pirates reading the newspaper.
Right, I hadn't noticed that. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that now instantly, okay, that was the thing we were in this, and now it's part of the news. Somebody's read about it. Time has passed enough for something to publish. We're now with the pirates, right?
That's a really interesting way of doing like this blank. But blank like is to be like people learning about the events of the movie.
Yeah, it's a very interesting structuring device that I don't see used very often. And like when it's interesting because when I say that it uses newspapers, you know, like the brain might be like headlines splashing on front.
It's not spinning. It's someone quietly reading a newspaper.
Someone's reading a newspaper, which I just think is interesting. But yes, we need someone new, as you were saying.
Yeah, so someone new is in town. It's the American.
Yep.
Donald Curtis.
Donald Curtis.
An English dub voiced by Carrie Ellis. Doing the exact same voice he did in Twister. Just
absolutely.
Just putting that on the table.
In the manga, he was originally called Donald Chuck, which is interesting. I think Donald Curtis has a nice ring to it.
It's good. Yeah, Curtis is a good villain name.
Yeah.
Antagonist name. He's not a villain either. There's no real villains in this movie.
Except for fascism. We got him.
And I'm so glad that fascism ended.
Yeah, it's not great.
So glad it was defeated. Yeah, so Curtis. The pirates kind of are alluding to the fact that, you know, we're working with this new American, though, and he'll take him out.
Yeah.
And Curtis is just like, shh. Yeah. Because Gina is singing a song.
Yeah, I'm listening to the music. Let me
We go outside. Porco lands his plane. There's this beautiful, quiet moment where he stops to light a cigarette, clocks Curtis's plane, and looks at it for a time, and then continues walking. Miyazaki using Ma. We love to see it. Just a really nice beat.
Max, for those who don't know, could you explain Ma?
Yeah. So Ma is, it's a quiet space that doesn't advance the plot. It is just a quiet moment of reflection or nothing. It's just a nice moment.
Yeah,
what's the official description?
As I understand it, it comes from the Japanese concept of Ma, which is the name for the space between objects. So the space that exists between things has a name and its own kind of entity, and that is Ma. And so applying that to filmmaking is exactly what you said. These moments of just repose, these moments of letting yourself breathe in between the set pieces, in between the moments of dialogue or characterization, to just sit in the world for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's why these movies are so successful as like comfort movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Porco enters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some news reporters run over to him. Curtis storms over and sits them down in the seats and says, "Listen to the song."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Something like that.
Yep.
Stands with Porco for a bit. There's some good little banter between them of like, is that your plane out? Is that a Curtis plane out there? Is that yours? And he's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, this Porco Rosso. They both know who each other are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Curtis, or does he go over to the pirates then? And he's like, you're making a mistake contracting with this American or something like that?
No, he doesn't talk to the pirates at all.
Oh, he doesn't?
No, he just, he stays by the bar.
It's not a good idea. Maybe that's later in the movie then.
I think it's later.
Okay.
No, they're sitting and arguing because the argument is that some of the pirates want to hire Curtis and some of them don't, because they're like, I don't want to split loot with this guy, and everybody's like, no, it's fine. Like, he'll take care of this pig problem for us, you know?
Yeah.
This pig festation, if you will.
I won't.
All right.
And then Porco and Gina go upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's eating some, and I watched for a second. I was like, what's he eating? Salmon.
It looks so good.
It looks really good. It's like a honey glazed salmon. Looks good.
Nice hollandaise sauce.
Yeah. And Parker, that has nothing to do with the fact that you often make a good fish dish for your guests at your house?
Not in the slightest. I have not perfected salmon yet.
I simply feel that PR initials and making a fish dish for guests. I just feel like maybe you're pulling a lot. Oh, wait a second. You're wearing a pig nose. No. It's not true.
Oh, God. You found out.
I briefly thought about having you wear your costume for the recording. Then I went, no. What would I do?
What would I do? It'd be the plane.
I just paint myself red.
Yeah.
He's got a beautiful red plane.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous. There's just a really nice conversation between Gina and Porco at this time. Yep. What do we learn, Parker?
We learn that Gina has been married 3 times, I think.
3 times, and they've all died in
her latest her latest husband has also died. She's been waiting for 2 years to find out anything. She finally got word, and she just tells Porco, you know, at least in the English dub, you know, she's just talking about how she's like, I'm just numb. She's like, I don't even have tears anymore. You know, I feel nothing. I've been losing people left and right. And she just tells Porco how much he means to her. And she says, I've appreciated you keeping an eye on me and your friendship all these years. And he is, you know, not aloof. Exactly. That's a great word for it. He's aloof, dude. He's like, hey, yeah, you know, it's a great place, whatever.
He also says the good always get killed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they toast and he says to comrades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She also points out the picture behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that photo. It's the only photo we have of your human face before you got turned into this pig.
And he's scribbled out his face. We can't see his face.
Scribbled out his face.
And this is where she brings up the curse. She says, when are you going to break this curse on you, Marco?
Which is very similar. I guess it is very similar to Kiki's in the sense that like the movie just casually drops this existence of magic that people are aware of on you. And you just go, oh, okay, great.
Sure.
Like in Kiki's, it's just like she lands in the town and she's just like, my name's Kiki and I'm a witch. And they go, oh, that's very nice, dear. Nice. And like, they're just like, oh, we haven't seen a witch in these parts for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, Gina's just like, when are you going to break this curse, man?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so that's why he's a pig?
Right.
And you're like, are we going to get any sort of flashback to this? No.
Yeah. Again, in traditional Western style storytelling, you would feel like this would have to open with a Beauty and the Beast style prologue. Like, what happened to him? Why are we here?
Or even in this moment, she'd be like, when are you going to break that curse on you? He'd be like, I can't, you know the rules.
You know the rules that I have to tell you now. Yeah. And right. he just tells her, he says, face it, I'm a pig. Like, this is it. This is life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which I am always fascinated by the way this movie treats like that particular supernatural element and how it weaves it in and out. And it's
I've got a second big question for you later.
Oh man, he's got 2 big questions. Oh, he's going to ask me if I'll marry him, and then he's immediately going to ask for an annulment. That's what this is.
Yeah,
I should have known.
As we've talked, I've realized that I also want an annulment.
I've changed his mind somewhere along the line.
I was like, this
is a bad idea. I should have thought this through.
But I'm still going to ask the first question.
Yeah, you're locked in at this point.
Yeah, I told you I was going to do it. I have to.
Yeah.
I hate how true to me that is. That I would
No
be
take
like,
backsies.
So now
I brought it up. I guess I'm stuck now.
All right. So the bringing in this magical element.
Yeah, we get a mention of that. Curtis flies away. He comments about the American flyboy is going to be in trouble. Is basically him. And then he is heading off to fix his plane, which is, first what happens is that the pirates do a hit. The pirates all band together. They go and hit this cruise ship, and they bring Curtis with them. And I do love, it's been a while since I've watched the Japanese dub. You'll have to remind me if they do the same thing, but I do love in the English dub, they say, where's Curtis? He's flying in the sun. Typical American.
In the Japanese version, I took note of this. They go, where's the American? He goes, flying in the sun, where he should be.
Oh, interesting.
And it's different. I feel like the English dub is more like, they hate Americans.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some genuinely interesting little changes where I just go, I don't really know why. But sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
So they go attack this cruise line. I also love just like the chipper announcer voice of like, please be aware, we are being attacked by seaplane pirates.
Don't worry.
We've got security.
Yeah, and then the coolest planes get unfolded and come out of the ship.
Yep.
They've got muscle. We didn't plan for this.
Yeah, everybody's in a tizzy. Curtis is like, well, I guess I'll have to win this all myself. Flies in, shoots down these two security planes off screen.
Yep, we don't see it.
Yep.
Also, real quick, we established that these, again, just further endearing us to these seaplane pirates. One of the groups in one of their planes is just going, we're having engine trouble. We gotta abort.
We gotta hang back.
And they're like, we know that's an excuse.
Yeah, they're all just bickering about like,
yes,
who's going to pay for expenses? Do we cover ammo and paint? Like, it's all
they're still bickering. They are not unified in any way.
Not in the slightest.
So yes, Curtis takes out the security off screen.
Yep. We're back with Porco at his grotto. He's listening to the radio. He hears the news and they say, the pirates shot down security planes, took all of the loot, and they left this message. And they leave a message for Porco saying, hey, we're coming for you.
Pig.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he goes, time to take a trip.
Yeah. He's like, all right, well, see ya. Don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, you think I'm gonna go toe to toe with you guys? Boo.
Yeah.
I'm going.
I don't know if it's in the English version, but at the very beginning, when he's first getting ready to go out and face the Mamayuda gang in that opening sequence, he cranks the engine. He says, I think it's time for an overhaul. Yeah. Setting up that his plane isn't doing too
totally.
hot.
Well, also, even in that first sequence, his plane is dripping oil. And he's like, yes. gotta take care of that. Like, we've been establishing that he's having some maintenance issues and he needs to get taken care of.
Yeah. So he's just like, well, I'm just going to go and I'm going to go to Milan. Beautiful women. White linen sheets. Beautiful women. Mm-hmm. And he goes.
This
or
sequence.
Does he?
Yeah, this sequence has my favorite shot in the entire film, which is there's this gorgeous wide shot of his plane going across the screen, very tiny, and the sun is coming through the clouds and hitting the waves, and it's just sparkling. It just shimmers and
yeah, so
gorgeous.
Yeah. Wait. So is that this?
Yeah, that's this. Yeah.
Well, but when is how about helping the people out with a Patriot bond? Because he goes to get money out to go, and he calls Gina before he leaves, right? That's before this.
He calls Gina after he gets shot down.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah,
You're
but
right.
he does.
Well, I took notes in order with the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the notes I have before this is, 1, he goes to the bank.
Yes.
Gets out some money.
Pays off the plane.
You've paid off your plane. And he goes, how about helping the people out with a Patriot bond? And in the Japanese version, he goes, do I look like a person? In the English version, I think he says like...
He says,
I'm a pig.
Yeah, I'll leave that to you humans.
Yeah, something like, And then he goes to get some more ammo here.
Yep. Talks to the weapons dealer.
The weapons dealer. And in the English version, because they talk about like bounty hunters. And, he's like, the government's really cracking down. Like, you're going to be out of a job soon, Porco.
Yeah. And we're seeing as he's going through the city, all of the secret police are eyeing him and they're whispering to each other. Like they are taking note of him throughout this whole thing.
There's like a big parade, like a military parade outside, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like government might be changing again. I think that's what the weapons dealer says. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
our government might change again. Kind of just, again, establishing the world a little bit more. And then there's this line of, they're talking about bounty hunters and like profiteering from war and all this stuff. And then after Porco leaves, the apprentice of the weapons dealer is like, well, what's the difference between a war profiteer and a bounty hunter? And the Japanese line is, well, war profiteers are villains. Bounty hunters are just stupid. But in English version, it's like, if you can make money from war profiteering, you're scum. If you can't make money from being a bounty hunter, you're an idiot.
Yep.
Right? Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, they're kind of setting where this movie's at.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that is before he leaves. I guess that's probably like immediately following the club scene, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it goes there, fades out. He's in Italy doing all of this stuff. He comes back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep. So
great.
Yep. Goes and gets the ammunition. Pirates attack.
All this stuff.
Put out
then
a hit.
He leaves.
Then he leaves.
Put out a hit. Then he leaves. And I have written here, God the clouds.
God the clouds.
The clouds look so good here.
Yep.
And then I say the dramatic / foreboding piece of score as Porco descends out of the clouds that then becomes the flamenco inspired piece and then flying through the beam of sun. Anyway, that was all in caps at the end there.
Really good.
That part always feels like such a different musical sound from what Hisaishi usually brings to these films. By the way, Joe Hisaishi.
Great. Just incredible.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Composer. And, Miyazaki's John Williams, for lack of a better, for easy comparison. Wonderful. And the score for this is just as wonderful.
Fantastic stuff. Really, really lovely.
Yeah.
So he's making his way to Milan, and Curtis appears.
Curtis shows up.
Out of nowhere.
They start fighting. I love the magic of this movie that is them being able to hold conversations while they're flying.
It's great. I love it.
It's a great little just like bit of movie magic of just like, they can talk. They can hear each other.
Yep.
They fight.
Well, Curtis, so Porco's just trying to evade him. He's not he's like, I'm not going to fight you. And he's trying to weave in and out. Curtis is shooting at him. Porco's not returning fire. His engine fails.
Yeah, his engine stalls.
Yeah, and Curtis is like, I hit him. He's like, you didn't hit anything. My engine's out.
He shoots him down.
Yeah.
Then he shoots him.
Yeah, then he shoots him.
Crashes.
Tears up the plane.
Curtis goes down, lands, grabs a piece of the plane.
Fully assumes Porco's dead.
I'll send it home to Mama. Porco's fine. His plane
Curtis
is
says
terrible,
played by
but
Goofy?
alive. Yeah, that was Goofy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Goofy.
Nice.
It was Goofy as Curtis.
I see.
You didn't see the Disney dub of Porco Rosso?
But yes, shoots him down. Like you said, Porco is okay, but his plane is beat to shit. It is completely inoperable. We cut back to Gina, and she is rushing out on a boat to go find him. She's heard this news.
Yes.
She's terribly worried. One of the bellboys comes and says, "Hey, Porco's on the phone. He's alive. He's waiting for you." So she makes a killer jump from this boat to the pier. Great jump. True. In her thoroughly modern Millie outfit.
Yes.
She runs back inside, talks to Porco, and she's like, I heard you shot down. I was just going to go look for you. He's like, I'm okay. He's like, I was stranded for a couple days, so I'm pretty thin, but
yeah.
And in the English dub, I love that it's like he's like, I'm stranded on an island for a couple days, so I look pretty good. Not as sexy as that American flyboy, though.
Yeah. In the Japanese dub, it's I've lost some weight. I've been on a desert island for 2 days.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. And this conversation, I'm curious, Parker. Remind me again. He says, if Curtis walks back into that bar, tell him. He says that, right?
Yeah. He's like, you tell him we'll meet again. Tell him there's still a score to be settled. Essentially, is the idea.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, Gina's reaction to this is more based in, "You're being so stupid, Marco." She calls him. Is this the first time we hear her?
No, she mentions Marco when they're having dinner.
Okay.
Yeah. She says, "You've been such a good friend, Marco." Yeah, his name's Marco Rossellini. No, she gets mad when she learns he's in Italy. She's like, "There's a warrant for your arrest. What are you doing in Milan? I don't care how good your mechanic is. Get home."
Which is interesting because it's different. It's a different thing she's mad about in the Japanese version. She says, "Hey, I'm not a messenger. I worry about you pilots, but you treat me like the furniture. Marco, you'll end up roasted. I won't attend your funeral."
Interesting.
Is what she says. Yeah. She's basically just saying that you continuing to do this work will you get killed. She's not as worried about him getting arrested in Milan.
And she lands on the same point, because in the English dub she says, I don't want to yell at you, Marco, but if you keep being so pig-headed, you're going to get killed, and I can't bear to go to another pilot's funeral.
Which is one of the really great on-the-nose pig jokes from the English version. And does he say in the English version, a pig's gotta fly?
He just says like, no dice. Yeah, sorry, baby, gotta go.
In the Japanese version, he says, a pig's gotta fly, which I was like, that's delightful.
That's really good.
I really like that.
I do like that line. I remember that one.
I hope this episode isn't just us being like, so here's the differences.
So
we've never talked about this before.
So he's in Milan. He's out on the train. The train's hauling his fuselage. That's the only thing he's kept. He's reading a newspaper about,
basically he's dead.
Yep.
Dead or alive. It's unclear.
Which I understand. Like, I get that the English dubs of all of these movies try to fill in those ma spaces because Western audiences aren't used to them. I will say I do really like the line they put in here of Porco Rosso, dead or alive. Good question.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that it's a bit on the nose. It's telling us rather than showing us how he's feeling, but like, I think it's good, you know?
Yeah. So at this point, we're introduced to Piccolo.
Yes, I love Piccolo.
Tell everyone about Piccolo, Barker.
Piccolo is a tiny man. I was almost going to call him a tiny mouse man, but that's confusing when there are pigmen in this movie. He's just a tiny little man with giant whiskers on the side of his face, which is a very fun little design. And he is Porco's mechanic. He lives in Milan, and he is currently being helped by his granddaughter, Fio. Fio is 16. She lives in America. She is staying with him for the summer, is basically what's implied.
In the Japanese version, she's 17. I guess she's 16 going on 17.
I guess so.
Fio is an interesting part of this movie that I'm curious to discuss with you.
Yeah.
As we get along here. But in this situation, there's this great moment that I noticed in this scene with Piccolo, I think even before Fio shows up, where they go in to look at a new engine for the plane.
Yep.
And it's the Ghibli engine. But then Piccolo's basically like, yeah, this thing can go this fast. It's going to be really good for you. And Porco's like, hang on, I'm not racing. It's not going to be a race against Curtis. It's going to be a dogfight. Like I don't need it to be fast.
Yeah.
And Piccolo says, you're preaching to the converted, which I love because that's just such a good line hinting at like their dynamic and Piccolo's past and how he's ended up being a mechanic for a dog fighting like bounty hunter plane. Like, it's really, I like that little line of like, you're preaching to the converted. I think it's a really great little detail.
That is really good. I do like that quite a bit.
Yeah. And then Fio. So
we meet Fio. Fio instantly is like fully capable as a character, you know, like at a certain point, you know, they back the truck up. She's taking a look at the fuselage, just commenting on the design and the wonderful lines it has. And Piccolo goes off to go talk with Porco about the job, and he just leaves Fio alone. He says, "Hey, you got this?" And she's like, "Yeah, totally." And she's just rigging everything up, like she knows her way around the shop. And Porco tells Piccolo what he needs. They hook the engine, all this stuff, and he's cleaning him out for money. He's just stacking bills on the table or whatever.
Like, give me what's in your pockets.
Yep. Exactly. And he tells him, he's like, I need that money. I need room, board, meals. He's like, you can stay here and have meals. I won't charge you very much, you know? And he asks Piccolo, he says, well, Piccolo, where are your sons? He says, they had to leave. They had to go find work.
They had to go find work. There's no work here.
He's like, well, then who's going to build my plane? He's like, oh, well, Fio's going to do it. And Porco freaks out about that. He says, Fio, like that kid. Are you kidding me? And Piccolo keeps telling him, he's like, hey, don't stop being such a pig. Like she's very talented. She knows what she's doing. Porco doesn't buy it. He says, nope, I'm going to leave. Fio overhears all of this. She comes in and confronts him and says like, are you not willing to hire me because I'm young or because I'm a
girl? Yeah, a woman.
And he says it's both.
It's both. Yeah.
They have a conversation, at least in the English dub, about like what makes a great pilot. Is it experience? And he says, no, actually it's, intuition. And she's like, yep, I knew you were going to say it wasn't, experience, all these things. And she's like, look, I'm young. I can't help the fact that I'm a woman, but like, if, give me a shot with it. Let me take the night, redesign the plane, see what you think. And he's like, fine. Yeah, sure. We'll do that. She talks him into it. The next morning, he takes a look at the designs. We have a very funny little moment of him getting ready in the bathroom, and I think it's the only time we see him without his sunglasses on. He's like washing his face and then puts them back on. I'm like, oh, he has eyes under there.
Yeah.
Comes in, takes a look at the design. She has augmented a few things, but like is still wanting to keep the spirit of the original plane. And he's impressed with her work. He says, here's a couple of adjustments. Other than that, looks great. Like, I think
she's like, you let me do it? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, she's a good kid, huh? Hands off.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment in here where Piccolo says that to Porco.
Yep.
And in the English version, he says, just looking at her makes me tired.
Mm-hmm.
In the Japanese version, he says, that's the furthest thing from my mind, which I prefer wholeheartedly because like just looking at her makes me tired is funny, but it still isn't fully like cutting that off from him. I think that the movie does a really interesting thing where like Fio is continuously very like just in awe of Porco. He's a seaplane, he's a seaplane pilot, and like it's not so overplayed where it's like she's in love with him.
Totally.
But she's just very
enamored by him. Yeah.
She's enamored by him, and she's very eager to like help however she can, whether that manifests as like, what if I kiss you and that breaks the curse? And he's like, no.
Yeah. I think he does a really good job of shutting that down. Like
he does.
If there are ever like concerns a viewer has going into that, I think the movie does a really good job of like, nope, not the direction this is going.
Yeah. And I think like, just looking at her makes me tired still fits that purpose, but I didn't realize that I would like it even more that he's just like, that's the furthest thing from my mind. Because I just feel like, I don't know, every time I show this to people, I feel like I can almost feel this kind of unease of like, she's 17. The minute Fio says she's 17 and Piccolo starts being like, hands off, I feel like there's just kind of this like, that like settles upon the audience when they're watching it. I don't know, when I've like watched it with our friends and stuff. And that's like, I don't know, that's kind of where I land on that. But again, I don't think that's like a problem that the movie isn't resolving, because again, throughout the entire thing, he continues to be like, like he's not even like looking at her, like thinking about her in that way at all. But I think it's kind of like, I don't know, my mom once put it as like when she saw Napoleon Dynamite for the first time, she didn't enjoy it because she just kept having this overwhelming feeling that Uncle Rico was going to do something horrible to Deb. Like, because she didn't like, it was a funny movie, but like, you don't really know where that movie's going until it's over. And then you go, oh, okay. And you watch and you go, oh, that's charming. And so like, I think of it that way where like, if you are watching Porco Rosso for the first time, you're kind of like, okay, but like where's this line of thought going with Fio? Especially when she continues to be very enamored with him, right? I think there's just kind of this expectation of like, is this a movie that hasn't aged well? There's almost that question. But again, the movie does a good job of putting that aside, I think, for the most part.
I agree.
I love that all the women come to build the plane.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I just like it. I think it's a fun little, the playing around it has with Italian hospitality, and like Piccolo's just introducing every single one of his relatives to Porco. He's like, this is my cousin's sister's niece.
Yes, and Porco is like, are there any men in your family? And Piccolo's like, well, they all went to look for work. There's no work here. He's like, so the women work for me. Parker, I think this is a good time to ask my first big question.
Oh boy, we're here.
It's not the proposal that I promised. I'm sorry.
Phew.
A lot of... Okay.
Don't take it personal.
No, I'm going to take it a little personal.
I didn't want to have to do this live on mic is all. That's it.
Okay.
I'm happy to have that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We'll talk about it after.
We'll talk about
it. Why do you keep bringing it up? Anyway, before I was rudely interrupted by Parker thinking I was going to propose to him. A lot of the Letterboxd reviews for Porco Rosso say, oh, misogynistic Miyazaki movie? There's that sentiment in a lot of the reviews.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I've gone, this is a situation in which movie portrays character who has sexist tendencies, therefore movie is on the side of character.
Right.
Even though Like, I think that might be some of what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the movie is Piccolo literally in the English version saying, like, don't be so pig. Like, people are constantly telling Porco, don't be so pig-headed.
Yeah.
Like, he is literally a pig.
Yeah.
It's like he's a sexist pig or something.
Crazy.
Almost as if.
Shocking.
And that's what I like about in the Japanese version when Gina over the phone says, I worry for you pilots, but you all treat me like furniture.
Mm-hmm.
I think is something that feels like we almost need that from Gina, specifically that wording, especially with where the climax of this movie goes.
Sure.
Because if we have more of, and like Fio saying, I can't help being a woman, I think is meant to be a lot more charming and kind of like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But I think for some people, they read that as like the movie being like, yeah, women can't do things. And like the women coming to build the plane, Porco's like, what, we can't, are you sure about this? And Piccolo's like, yeah, they do good work. Like Piccolo's entire situation here is to prove Porco's sexist ideals wrong.
Right.
He's like, the women can build your plane and it's going to be good. And I love this sequence for that of totally. Like this, it feels like, you know, so many of Miyazaki's protagonists are strong women who prove that they are capable.
Yeah.
Under extreme duress. And this movie is one of the notable few that has a male character as kind of our protagonist. And so I don't know, like where do you, what would you say to people who talk about that? And then keeping in mind, I might just bring it up here at this point, if I can just skip ahead, just to complete the sexism conversation. The ending of the movie has Fio literally as a prize that can be won. And I saw some people being like, wow, women just being an object to be won by men is something that they bring up in relation to Fio at the end of this movie. I would also like to push back on that.
Yeah.
A little, because Fio is the reason that Porco is alive. The seaplane pirates all respect Fio so much.
Also, Fio makes that deal. Obviously, she doesn't offer herself up, but Porco doesn't say yes or no. He's literally held down by the pirates while that negotiation is going on. And she says, fine, yeah, I'll meet your bet. And like she is fronting herself in that moment. And like, I get the visual of what people are talking about at the end of like sitting on the chair with a pile of money on one side and the girl on the other. It's like, okay, I understand that visual, but you can't, it's the answer I would give to everybody in context of everything you're talking about is you cannot take those lines of dialogues or those images out of context and expect to understand what the movie is about. You can't. It just isn't going to work, because I fully think, and like giving full validity and space to people who feel that way, I don't think it is an incorrect reading of the film. I do think, however, that the film goes out of its way to textually prove that reading wrong at every instance, like it's over and over and over again.
It's not completely, I don't even want to use the word fair. It's just not taking into account everything that the movie did before that.
I think it's a limited perspective on the film is how I feel about it. Of like, again, there is an argument to be made, and also the character himself is in conversation with that. Like jumping around that moment after this negotiation has happened and what the show's going to be is Porco berating her at first and saying, "What on earth are you doing? Like, why did you make that deal?" Not wanting her to put herself on the line. And then realizing when he's gone too far, that she is feeling very put out. Like, I guess I'm stupid. I guess I'm wrong. You're right. I shouldn't have said anything. And he gives her the respect she's been desiring, saying, "Hey, I owe you my life. Like, you stepped in." And he gives her, like, it's not a hug. It's not even a handshake. It's like a bro fist handshake the two of them do together of like, we're partners now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then Fio, very realistically, and we just skipped a chunk of the movie here.
Yeah.
But she very realistically kind of is like, oh, okay, adrenaline dropping. Yeah, like, I'm gonna go for a swim. Like, she's a real person.
She's a real person. And so, like you said, there's an epidemic going on in the spaces of film discussion where, as you said, if film portrays issue, film is endorsing issue. And it's like, that is not how film has ever worked or will ever work. That's not how art has ever worked. But it is a very surface level, TikTokifiable reading of art that exists out there. Because it feels like there's a tendency that people have, especially on the internet. People really like to be angry about things. People really like things to be upset about. And hey, it's fun. As you and I have talked about, some of our most enjoyable episodes of this podcast are ripping into movies we don't like.
Yeah, I can't wait for the one we have on the docket for later this year.
Yeah, it is a good time. I understand where it comes from. That said, I think that you do, like, if you are, in a weird way, it circles back to what we were talking about before, of like, if you want to watch this movie on that surface level approach, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Genuinely, sure. I think you could use this film in a very interesting argument and discussion around sexism in media and, you know, cultural differences and things like that. Additionally, it feels like it is also the same thing of like, if that level of analysis is only ever watching the English dubs, I would maybe encourage you to listen to the Japanese dub. I would maybe the Japanese, I would encourage you to listen to what the film is actually saying and where the characters are going through, because that's the point of the movie. You know, again, we'll fill in some of these gaps, but like another thing that people get up in arms about is that like the curse of this pig form is, if you were looking on a surface level, it's like, oh, well, as they're pulling away, Fio gives him a kiss on the lips, and he gets knocked down by the plane, and then it's implied that he's human because Curtis is like, look at your face, what happened?
Yeah, let me see.
And people are like, oh, okay, like the kiss. But it isn't that. Like, it is the point of the movie. The curse is broken because Porco fought for somebody who wasn't himself.
And that's the movie. Because when... Okay, hang on. Let's just fill this in really quick. Let's just fill this in really quick.
Yep.
Because where were we?
So they're fixing the plane. They fix the plane. They build the plane. Porco talks to his friend Ferrari, who works for the Italian Air Force. He says, hey, the Italians have it out for you. That is the rather be a pig than a fascist scene.
Yes.
Also very interesting that the propaganda film, the bad guy of the cartoon, is a pig with a mustache, you know, who flies a plane.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, this propaganda film is making Porco the bad guy.
Says... This
movie sinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his friend, who is still a good friend, works for the fascists, you know, and he says, this is a great movie. You know, I love that. I love that little moment. So he tells Fio, hey, I got to get out of here. Now secret police are after me.
She asks if he's a spy. He's like,
laughs her off about it.
It's like, I don't work hard enough to be a spy.
Tells her that they have to go without testing the plane, which she's very much against. Comes to the night of, she is making modifications and she's in a flight suit. And Porco's like, well, what's going on? She's like, well, I'm coming with you. And I need, if we're not going to test it, I need to be able to make adjustments on the fly. And he's very upset about all of this. And again, a moment of her self-actualization of saying, like, I'm coming. Like, I want to come. This is a choice I'm making.
Well, and she says, this is my first job. I want to do it right.
I want to
make adjustments. Mm-hmm. Like, it's about her wanting to get this right.
Yeah, totally. And, you know,
and she is endangering her life to do so.
She is. And she points and Porco is the thing that finally shuts him up is that he's like, you're okay. You're this girl's grandfather and you're okay with sending her off with like a known womanizer, making her an outlaw. And she's like, nope, I'm going along as your hostage. That way, like, you know, we have a reason for helping you.
They have an entire plan.
Like, they have it all planned out. He is 3 steps behind them, you know?
Yes.
So they take off. Secret police try to catch him. They have to take off from the canal.
Great race down the canal.
Great
Fantastic.
Sequence. So good. Finally get it up in the air. Gina and Curtis are in her garden. Curtis proposes to her.
Let's slow down here for a second.
Okay.
Because this is the best line of the English dub. In which Gina is in her secret garden and Curtis like scales the wall and enters and she's like, and he
introduces himself by saying this.
And what is he? Well, he says something.
He says a solitary rose blooms in a secret garden. And he says,
and then she looks up at him.
He says, that's my favorite line from a screenplay I wrote.
Which It's not in the Japanese version and is the best line.
It's really good. It's really funny.
That's just really funny.
It's really funny.
It just cracks me up that he's like, that's the best line from a screenplay.
Just quoting yourself is always good.
It's so good. It's so true to his character. He steps in, proposes to Gina.
Gina rejects him.
And he's like, why? And she's like, well, I'm playing a game with myself. I'm gambling. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if she says that in the English version. She's like, I'm gambling. She's like, I have a bet going.
Yeah.
Which is that, this person that I'm in love with will come here.
And we'll fall in love.
And we'll fall in love and be together.
Yep.
Porco flies over the garden.
Yep, does a bunch of loop-de-loops, reveals that he is not dead to Curtis. Gina has this really lovely flashback that I really enjoy. It's so good of what I would imagine is the first time she's ever flown.
Yes.
And Porco is flying, and his plane is called the Adriano. And she names her hotel after it.
Okay, we have to backtrack a little bit, which is that when Porco meets Fio, and she says she's 17, and she's like, "Is it experience that makes the pilot great?" He goes, "No." She's like, "I knew you wouldn't say that because I've heard stories that you flew when you were 17."
Yeah,
and he's like, "Yeah, that was the first time I went up. It was 1910. It was a different world."
Yeah,
this completes this of like the conversation with Gina of the dinner, and then this conversation with Fio, and then this flashback is when they were kids.
Yep,
Marco and Gina went up in the Adriano. This beautiful old-timey plane. And I have a question for you, Parker, which is I skipped so many lines. Is there a more romantic scene in Miyazaki's filmography than this? With the flashback and Porco's plane dancing above Gina's garden and her watching, and is there stronger romance in any? The Wind Rises makes a strong case.
Wind Rises make a strong case. I know
another kind of the paper plane sequence is gorgeous.
People really love Howl's Moving Castle for a lot of what it's doing with romance and like the sky walk at the beginning of the film. I think this takes the cake because unlike Howl's is very charming in retrospect. It's very romantic and lush. Sophie is very like, she doesn't know what's happening, but she's being won over in the moment. That's exciting. But like, this is people with history. This is people who yearn for each other, you know?
Howl's Moving Castle is courting.
Yes.
It is this wondrous moment of fantasy and then later, I'm going to be honest, the romance in Howl's Moving Castle later in the movie doesn't entirely land for me.
I'm in the boat.
But like you're saying, this sequence is like the only time that there are like two Ghibli characters. Okay, well, we haven't considered Ponyo's parents.
Sure.
But they don't really have romance either because they're separated.
Yeah. Yeah, there's antagonism there.
Yeah. I guess the better thing is it's not formatted as a question. I think this is the most romantic scene in Miyazaki's filmography.
I think you're absolutely right. It's just,
easy.
Man. And just like the music in this sequence the music. Yeah, it's incredible. I love this sequence so much. And like anybody who says that like this movie isn't a romance and that like Porco and Gina aren't in love with each other, I'm like, are you paying attention? Are you watching the movie?
That?
I've seen people say that online, and I'm like, you're crazy. You're crazy.
We should kill them.
You want me to kill those guys for you?
In the silliest way possible, we should hit them with pies that make them dissolve into bones, like in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. We should just goof them to death, those people.
Those guys. Yeah, it's a shocking claim that I've heard people make because I think this movie's aching in that regard.
Let me correct that. We should goop those guys.
We should goop those guys.
Send them to Goop Street, if you know what I mean.
One-way ticket to Goop Avenue.
One-way ticket to Goop Street. Buddy, you're gearing up for a one-way ticket to Goop Street, I'll tell you that much.
Man, I love how much of this is just like a Dick Tracy episode now. You know, that's such a Dick Tracy line.
I would love to. Don't tempt me with a good time. You just said the words Dick Tracy episode. Do not tempt me. It's not too late to change next week.
You're so right.
Which will be funnier when people find out what's next week.
Yep.
Real quick, I just wanted to go backtrack again. We're backtracking within a backtrack.
Sorry, guys. It's a great movie.
Sorry, guys. It's a great movie. This is going to be our longest episode, probably.
Sorry.
No, I think this will end right around the time of Knives Out, which feels fitting.
Sure.
Birthday episodes.
These are our favorite movies.
Let us have this. who are we talking to? These strawmen that listen to our show. The line where Ferrari lets them get out, he tells them where the Air Force is going to be, that lets them escape to Gina's.
Yep.
That scene ends with him signaling something to Porco, and Porco going, "Oh, he asked me, when did you take up babysitting?" In the English version, he says that. In the Japanese version, he says, "He saw you and signaled pearls before swine."
That's funny.
And
joke.
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
but I understand why the English version was like,
yes, yeah. Again, like it is something that, like, to your point, I think that the original Japanese language has some pluses in the "we're not going there" department, and I also think the English dub has some pluses of its own in that regard, where it's like, we're not going there. That's my favorite
line from a screenplay I wrote. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Anyway, I flipped the F out, Parker, keeping it G-rated.
Wow.
Is that G-rated? And the hotel's named, this is in all caps, and the hotel's named for that plane he flew when they were 17.
Yeah. It's
gorgeous.
Lovely.
Absolutely
so good.
Stunning.
And
Curtis is like, the pig.
Yeah, so he does his loop-de-loops. They go to get some fuel. Porco finds out, hey, government changed again. They're hiring the pirates. You can't hunt the pirates anymore. Like, you won't make any money doing this. And so he tells Fio, he's like, well, there's nothing to do.
And before that, he says, farewell to freedom and flying in the Adriatic. And then an old man at a table goes, what is that? Byron? Well, he says, what is that? Shakespeare. In the Japanese version, he says, what is that? Byron? And I was like,
Americans don't know who Byron
is.
Damn, pour one
they
out.
Don't know pearls before swine as a joke, and they don't know Byron. And he goes, no, it's Porco. See you later.
Yep. It's very good. But yeah, so he goes back and they get back to the hideout. And he just tells Fio, she's like, well, we're going to go fight Curtis. She's like, we're not going to. There's no point anymore. Like, there's nothing we can do. So we're just going to go lay low. And then all of the pirates burst out of the tent like it's a clown car.
Yeah, they do.
And I love it. They have found his secret hideout. And I think he even mentioned, he's like, guess my secret hideout isn't so secret anymore. And
it's really funny.
Yeah. And they, the pirates are shocked and awed by Fio. They're like, there's a girl here. What's a girl here? Yeah. A good line in the English dub of, he's like, relax, you idiots. Half the population's world is women.
That's in the Japanese version too.
Nice. Yeah.
Half the population is women.
Yep. And they're gonna smash up the plane. They're gonna kill Porco, and Fio goes crazy.
Fio stops them from destroying the plane.
She yells at him.
She's like, I just built that plane.
Yeah.
You're not going to tear it apart. It's a work of art. You're not going to do that. And they go, okay, well, we'll get the pig. And she's like,
what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? You're seaplane pilots. I grew up hearing stories about it. And this is where I wanted to get to.
Okay.
All those hours ago before we did 3 different loop-de-loops to flashback, which is to your point that Porco needed to learn to fight for someone other than himself. Fio's entire speech to all of these other seaplane pilots and pirates rather as well is, where is your honor?
Yep.
My father used to say that seaplane pilots were the best of men because the sea and the sky purified their hearts.
Yep.
And she basically, gets them all into a storm of like, Miss Fio's right,
And the scene after this doubles down on that I want to talk about in a minute.
Yes. Yeah. And this is all going very, very well. And I need you to know that in the Japanese version, there is like an anime, like modern anime level maniacal laugh from the cove that echoes through the scene. And then they all go, it's Curtis. And then Curtis is like...
You're also, you're brushing past my favorite piece of animation in this entire film, which is when they're all talking about what the plan is. And like, well, what do we do now? Like Curtis is the only one that's going to beat him. And the Mama Ayuda game boss has his arms folded and he looks very upset. And his head just like in 2 frames whips down as he like talks like, our contract's already expired with him. Like that piece of animation is so good.
You're right.
The timing on that's incredible. My partner watched that and they were losing their mind. They're like, that's so funny.
It's so funny. And then Curtis, they all look because Curtis gets their attention. And he's
just like, spider walking his way
down this crevice. And my favorite is at the end of the scene, everybody starts doing that to go back up.
Just go back up.
I don't know if it's in the English version, but in the Japanese version, Porco says, "What idiot put a path up there?"
No, that's not in the English dub. I forgot about that. It
cracks me up that, like, he's like, who put a path
up there? That's really
it's
good.
So funny. Oh, man. This whole scene is so funny. Curtis comes down, jumps. I love that he still stumbles when he lands.
He's got get the landing.
They make the deal that we mentioned earlier of he sees Fio, is immediately enthralled, and is like, will you marry me?
Why is it goofy?
I don't know why he's goofy, man. One way ticket to Goof Street. They make the deal, and then everyone leaves.
Yeah, so she's like, will you marry me? And she's like, fine, but if we win, you pay off the debt Porco owes me.
Yes. And he looks at the bill and he's like, this is a lot of money.
And she's like, no, it's not.
It's
really good. Not. Yeah, so they leave. Porco chastises her. Then he's like, hey, you saved my life. Thanks so much. They have their little moment.
Their little predator.
Yep.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch, yep.
Oh, no, it's not PG anymore.
Oh.
Anyway, Fio goes for a swim, and then I love that final button on this scene where she goes, oh! And Porco's like, what? What's wrong? And she's like, I should have padded the bill. Curtis would have paid us a lot more.
It's really good.
Porco laughs, busts up.
Gets a nice little snort in for Michael Keaton right there.
Good pig snort.
And next to the Gina flashback, favorite scene in the movie right here. Like genuinely, this whole bit.
Yeah. So it's nighttime. Also, I love that. I mean, again, there's just so many good moments in this movie. But earlier when they're about to leave, Porco's like, Fio, I live on a deserted island. And she's like, great, I love camping.
Yeah. I live alone in a tent.
Yeah, she's like, great, I love camping.
Yeah.
And she does, because they're camping on the beach.
Yep, camping on the beach.
But before we even see Fio, human fingers.
Yes.
Counting shells.
Well, it's still gloved, so you don't know yet. Because, like, he wears gloves the whole time. And he has 5 fingers the whole movie.
No, he does. But there's, like, I swear when I saw this scene,
I could have sworn
he's got human fingernails.
You might be right. I could have sworn he was still wearing gloves, but you're probably right.
I think it's part of this reveal.
Yeah,
this
you're
little
probably
moment.
Right.
And I want your thoughts on this. Fio kind of turns over in a sleeping bag, sees Porco counting these bullets, and he's human again.
Yeah.
Why? What do you think? You've seen this 11 times in 5 years.
I think it is. It's so interesting because the snapback is like he talks to her and he's talking to her about reality. My personal thought on why that moment is in there is because he is sitting there counting the bullets and checking everything and making sure everything is ready to go and fight for somebody that isn't him. He has avoided fights this entire movie. He doesn't get into them unless he is paid. And if there's no money involved, then what's the point? He's not going to fight Curtis for glory. He's not going to fight Curtis for honor. He's just going to run away because he doesn't care. He's like, well, because Curtis earlier, he's like, if you run, I'll tell everybody you're a chicken. He says, chicken, pig, what's the difference? Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
He doesn't care, right? And I think this moment, he is prepping for the next morning. He is about to do something for somebody else for the first time in years. And I think that's the moment. And again, that's why I don't buy the kiss is what releases the curse. It is, he is being selfless.
I think that's a great point. This moment is so crucial to the ending because this also, here's my take on it. He's doing all of this and he's also not being observed doing it.
Yeah.
I think that what comes into it is that he doesn't and again, the curse is weird in that way of like, well, but Fio is seeing him, but she's seeing him as human.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think it's a combination of the both of he's prepping for a fight that is for someone else. But the minute that Fio goes, Porco, and he turns and he's a pig again. Yeah. He's a pig again. And he goes, what? And then I think he puts back up the facade of...
Yeah, it's a mask.
The minute that someone else is with him and watching him, I think that he is like, well, he's back to himself.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that deep down... He's not selfish. He's not a pig. He doesn't hate women. It's just this is what he has put on because of what we're going to talk about later in the scene, right? Also, it's interesting that this is something Miyazaki plays around a lot with, of like Sophie has something similar in Howl's, where her curse comes in and out in different ways, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it just... Whoa!
Earlier I made the case that Porco has no sibling film in Miyazaki's filmography, and now I'm going... It's related to all.
It's all of them, actually.
It's all of them. Porco says, I am all the Miyazaki films.
I am all the Miyazaki films.
Wow. Are we going to cover Rise of Skywalker on the show?
No. Moving on.
It's too easy of an answer.
Too easy of an answer.
Yes.
So they have this conversation, and they talk about his curse, and she says, why does she ask him, why did you give up being human?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's an interesting phrasing of like, Gina talks about it as a curse, and he says at the end, he says, seeing you, Fio, makes me wish I never gave up being human. He talks about it as an act of choice.
Early on, though, she's like, what if I kissed you?
Yeah.
And he's like, what?
What
like,
are you talking about?
Yeah, and she's like, well, maybe that'll, like the Princess and the Toad, like maybe it'll break the curse.
English dub is, you got to save it special for someone. You got to save it for someone special, for crying out loud.
It's the same. It's the same. He's like, you got to save it for someone special. Again, he is.
And she's a little put out. She's like, well, don't you like me? Yes. And he, again, he's very kind, but draws a very firm line. He's like, hey, Fio, you're a great kid. Seeing you makes me wish I never gave up being human.
Yes. And then she has, I don't know how they get there, but she says this thing where she's like, tell me a story. I used to love the story. My father told me about the great ace pilot Marco Rossellini.
Yeah, he was in his regiment.
I used to love the story of how he jumped off a cliff to save an enemy pilot.
Yeah. And
I love that. Yeah. That's just a nice little thing to put in there.
The English dub, it's a good story in that one too. If she says, I always heard that once he landed his plane in a raging sea just to save the life of an enemy pilot. And I think that's amazing, Yeah. Yeah. Again, this was a guy who was selfless. This is a guy with honor, a guy who cared about other people, right? And so we've established that. And he says, no, that's the end of this. So she brings that up, and she's like, well, tell me a story before bed. Yeah. And he's like, all right, fine. I got a winner for you. And he tells her about this dogfight experience.
Uh-oh. Crying alert.
Crying alert.
Max is going to cry.
Oh, boy. Yeah, here.
It's one of the most powerful images I've ever seen in a movie. It's
really incredible.
Oh, no.
So Porco is talking about this dogfight he was in with one of Gina's husbands.
Yes, Bellini.
Bellini.
Berlini.
Yeah, there we go. We found a third time. So his friend Berlini, he said, I was the best man at their wedding. He was my best friend. But the war called.
Married.
We immediately had to go
right back in. Yeah.
So they're out there. He's like, we're in the worst dogfight of my life. We got ambushed. And he said, people are dropping around me, left like flies, friends, enemies, planes are going down. He's like, it is the craziest, most exhausting dogfight of my life. He said, and all I cared about was myself. And soon enough, I was the only one left. It was just me. And I was getting tailed by 3 of these guys, and I couldn't shake them. And he said, and then I was flying, and suddenly it just, he's like, I couldn't even hold the stick anymore. I was so exhausted.
But it was flying itself.
It was flying itself. It just kept going.
It was white all around me. Mm-hmm. It was so white I didn't even realize I was in a cloud.
Yep. And then the plane doesn't fly up. It just vertically rises up to the top of this cloud bed. And the score in this is unlike any. Like, it sounds like the Nausicaa score.
It is. It's the synth of the Nausicaa score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's come back.
It's a level of unreality.
Totally.
Or like heightened reality. Mm-hmm. Some sort of, yeah.
Yep. And so he's there, and he wakes up, and he's all alone. He doesn't know what's going on. And then suddenly, planes start rising up.
Well, yeah, and before that, he sees a silver band of white.
Yes.
Above the sky.
Yeah, he's like,
and then other, right?
Yeah, yeah. He says he saw something up in the sky, this band of white, and he had no idea what it was. And these planes start rising up. And it's the planes he was fighting. It's his friends, and it's Berlini. And he calls out to Berlini, and Berlini can't hear him. He keeps rising up. And then he realizes what's happening, and we get this close-up of the band, and the band is made up of hundreds of airplanes from all eras of history, and they're just flying through the air. And it's all nationalities, all armies, everything is up there. And these planes go up to fly and join them, and Porco is yelling after him, and he says, Berlini, you can't leave Gina alone. Let me go instead. And he's trying to get his plane to go up, and it won't go. And Berlini and the rest disappear. And he goes back down. And it cuts back to them on the beach, and he's finishing telling the story. And he tells Fio, he says, when I came to, I was floating on the ocean alone.
Yeah.
And this moment, that whole sequence, I could go on for hours about that sequence. Yeah. It's incredible.
And here I go. It shows up in The Wind Rises. This band of planes shows up again in The Wind Rises at the end.
Yeah.
And in The Boy and the Heron, there is a line of phantom ships out across the ocean that is very similar.
Yeah.
And every time this notion of like Afterworld being represented by these transports, these vehicles, these, you know, kind of avatars for humanity show up in a Miyazaki film, I lose my mind. I cry.
It's really powerful imagery. It's really incredible. And you're right,
Yeah.
it keeps showing back up, which is fascinating.
But not for a while.
Yeah, it's out for a little bit, for sure.
It's coming back. We won't dive fully into this, but it's come back in the last 2 films that he's made, which were both considered to be his last for a time.
Yeah.
It feels like it's come back to mind the closer he gets to the end.
Totally.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Does Fio say in the English version, heaven wasn't ready for you?
She said God was telling you it wasn't your time yet.
Okay.
Is what she says in the English one.
And in the Japanese version, he says, I think God, really? Because I think God was telling me to fly alone forever.
In the English dub, he says, you think so? He says, what's his exact phrasing? He's like, or maybe it means that I'm already dead and that life is a pig as hell is the same thing as hell.
Interesting. Okay, so that's my question is so that would make it seem as though he became a pig after that dogfight.
Yeah, which is what I've always interpreted it as.
It's, as far as I can remember, it's not communicated that way in the Japanese version. Because he says, I think God was telling me to fly alone forever.
Yeah.
And I feel like the English version is doing more of like...
Yeah, it's kind of more specific in that way.
But maybe I missed a line. I might have missed a line in there.
I don't know. I mean, even without that line, though, it does feel... It feels very implied, because again, if you are running off of this metaphor of... Because he talks about, he's like, I was only looking out for myself, and people died because of it.
Yeah.
And then I was left alone. And the curse as survivor's guilt makes sense to me in a big way, right?
And I mean, again, it's I wish I'd never given up being human. The curse is self-inflicted.
Totally.
It's not like God cursed him to live in hell as a pig.
Exactly.
He chose this. He's choosing this. And so much of this movie is Gina being like, Marco, like,
yeah,
I love you.
Totally.
And him being like, you can't though, because I'm a pig. And like, it's entirely, you know, for as much confidence as he carries himself with, like we mentioned earlier, it's not truly just fully self-confident. It is acceptance of what he thinks himself to be.
Exactly. And
that allows him to move confidently, but it's not allowing himself to live freely.
Totally.
Right? Because he's living under this burden of what he thinks he is.
Right. And what he thinks everybody else thinks he is, which is survivor's guilt, is I am carrying this weight around and everybody else around me thinks as poorly of me as I do of myself. When everybody around you is saying, my God, you went through this horrible thing. I'm so sorry. Like none of this was your fault. Right. But when you're in those situations, you can't accept that. And that is what this is that it is, the pig is a mask that he wears because this is how he views himself and how he assumes everyone around him views him. And yet, even with that, nobody cares. He's still charming. He's still funny. He's still attractive. Like everybody loves this guy, regardless of the fact that he was the lone survivor of this experience.
Which again recontextualizes all of the conversations about the curse leading up to this point.
Right.
In which, you know, Gina is like, when are you going to, you know, drop that curse that was put upon you? Because it is his thing to lose in a sense, right? I mean, it does require someone, you know, it requires Fio to see him as the selfless hero he is to free him of that. Again, it's not the kiss. Yeah. Because she kisses his cheek the night before and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
It's about his own realization of selflessness and lack of guilt. It's for everyone else, because again, it's not something that the movie is even putting on him. The movie isn't saying, it's not Groundhog Day.
Right.
It's not, this guy needs to learn a lesson if he wants to be free. It's this guy thinks so lowly of himself that he lives cursed as a pig.
This guy has to stop hating himself.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the movie. And it also recontextualizes when he says the good always get killed. to comrades, like all of his discussion of Gina's husbands who have died before, he genuinely views them as the good men who died, right?
Yeah, I survived, so I'm the bad one.
The good always get killed, and the more that he survives, the more he feels like he's being confirmed that he is not a good person, right? He is a pig.
Yep.
Damn, this movie rocks.
Yeah, it's really good. And he tells this story, and he says all of that, and Fio says, I think you're a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
It gives him a kiss on the cheek, goes to bed.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Rushes
off.
Like, hides under the sleeping bag.
Yep. Then we get the climax, finale.
Finale.
We got the big fight. Everybody's coming. They're placing the bets. They're out on this lonely island out in the middle of nowhere. And they're going to fight. Lots of funny shenanigans with the pirates.
Yes.
Big fan of punching everybody for the picture.
Yep.
Is good.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, we get here and Porco's off. They go and him and Curtis get into their plane and they head off together and they start their dogfight. And we see, they comment about what a great pilot Porco is, that, he gives him the loop, and that's, he gets behind him when he should have, the whole time Curtis should have been behind him, but he gets in, loops around all this stuff. But he won't, they talk about how he's like, why isn't he shooting? He's got him, just shoot. And they're like, if he shoots now, he'll kill Curtis. He won't kill another seaplane pilot, which again is an interesting, because we've never seen him be lethal in the movie, but it's something you don't really think about because you see him with the guns and you see him shooting people down and you hear about his war record. It's like, well, when is the last time he killed somebody? It's like probably that whole experience that he had.
Yeah.
That was probably the last time he ever was willing to do it.
Yeah. But even before that, it's like he was landing his plane in a raging sea or, depending on who you hear it from, jumping off a cliff to save an enemy pilot.
Totally.
Like, even in war, he was fighting to save other people.
Yeah.
And you even look at like his, I'd rather be a pig than a fascist. I will grant him this. He does think himself higher than fascists.
Yeah. As he should.
Even in the state that he is, as he should.
Mm-hmm.
But like he left the Air Force and Ferrarin keeps being like, come back I can find you a place at the Air Force.
Yeah.
Like, you can come do this for us.
Mm-hmm.
And he still has this set, like, again, fighting for the Air Force in this situation would require him to use lethal force likely and do things that he doesn't want to do. Like, but he's masking
fight for a cause that he is absolutely against, right?
Right. But he's masking it under selfishness.
Totally.
And it feels like that's another kind of trick that's being pulled on us, is like, oh, well, he doesn't want to do this because he's against the cause, but like he's also selfish. And it's like, no, his entire thing is that he won't kill another seaplane pilot.
Yeah.
His entire thing is his own moral code that he's always had, it would seem.
Yep.
Interesting. He plays the parts so well that we don't notice that he's not killing anybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they do loop-de-loops around each other. Curtis runs out of ammo. Porco's gun jams. They can't finish the fight in the air. And so they start throwing shit at each other. It's just really funny.
There's also this great line where it's when Curtis starts shooting with him with his little pistol.
Little rifle.
And
revolver.
In the Japanese version, he goes, this isn't a Western. What are you going to hit with that? And then it punctures the plane. Mm-hmm. They come back to landing. And they just start fist fighting.
They do boxing match. Yep.
They do boxing match. They look ugly as hell. Beat to shit by the end of this thing. But this, more than anything, has to do with Porco's transformation at the end.
Yeah.
Because this is Curtis literally hitting him over the head with the message of the movie, which is, she loves you, pig.
Yep.
Like, you're not like, how
listening.
Stupid do you have to be to not realize that she wants you? And Porco the entire time is like, you're lying. Yeah. Like you're trying to, he's like, why would I say that? Like, why would I do that?
Another exchange that I just really love in the English dub is they're fighting and he says, Gina says, and Porco goes, don't say Gina like you know her. just means nothing. And it's very funny.
Speaking of Gina, meanwhile,
she gets a telegram from Ferrari.
Yes, and her plane pilot is like, I want to go see the fight. And she's getting a telegram from Ferrari who's like, the Air Force is coming. They know about the fight. Out. They know about the fight. Everyone's got to clear out because everyone is gathered for this thing. So she's in a rush to get there in time to warn everybody. She gets there. she launches, the pink things, and they go, "Oh, there's trouble." The two fighters go underwater.
Yep.
Bubbling.
Mm-hmm.
Gina
Countdown
lands.
starts. Mm-hmm.
Yes, countdown starts. Gina lands.
She tells Marco to get up.
Yeah, she's like, "Marco, get up."
Yep.
What? You're not going to break another woman's heart, are you?
Yep.
Yeah. He gets up.
He gets up, wins the fight. Everything's all is well. Gina tells everybody they got to clear out, head back to her place. Everything will be okay. Everybody leaves.
Drinks on her.
She tells Curtis the fight's over, and that he lost. He has a nice little moment with Fio where he's like, "Fair's fair. Here's your money." He's like, "Next time I'll propose to you properly." And she's like, "Yeah, that sounds good."
He says, "Okay, but I've already made up my mind."
Yeah, she's like, "I know my answer."
Yeah. And then Porco puts Fio on the plane.
Yeah, he says, "Gina, can you please get her out of here?"
Yeah, take her back to a normal civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And Gina says, "This isn't fair."
Yeah, you can't.
It's never fair.
You do this all the time. I'm like, it just isn't fair anymore. And I really like that little moment that they have. And then as the plane is pulling away, Fio leans out. She kisses Porco. Porco gets slammed in the back of the head by the back of the plane as it takes off. And we don't see his face again for the rest of the movie.
They watch them fly away.
Mm-hmm. And he asks Kurt if he'll help him draw the Air Force off and keep them busy. Curtis says, "Yeah." And then he goes, "Your face. What happened to your face? Let me see it."
Porco runs away.
Yep.
"Just leave me a look."
And then we randomly get Fio's voiceover for this last minute,
which I actually love. So the boss of the Ayudo gang, before he leaves, tells Fio, and he gives her the money. He says, "I hate the pig, but I like you. Build some good planes."
Yeah.
And then he leaves.
It's nice.
And then the narration at the end is from Fio. She says, "Yeah, I'm the head of the company."
Yeah, I am president of the Piccolo Company.
Yeah, Gina and I stayed good friends over the years. I still summer at the Adriano.
Yep.
There's a lot of familiar faces there. And whether or not Gina won her bet is a secret for us. But I didn't notice this, but when she flies over the Adriano in the future, Porco's plane is docked at the hotel. And then the last shot is just the garden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Implying a nice happy ending.
Implying, not giving it to us. I think that's okay.
Which again, this sounds overly mean to these people, but I think that there is a tendency in Western online spaces of media discourse that if something is not spelled out for you, then it isn't there. And so all of these things about this film is sexist, this film has no ending, it just stops. It's you're not paying attention. You're not working hard enough on actually engaging with this film. Because that's another thing I've heard people I like Porco Rosso, I wish it had an ending. I'm like, what are you talking about? It totally has an ending.
It has an ending.
Yeah.
His curse is broken.
He breaks the curse.
It's very clear that he and Gina are together.
Yeah, I agree.
But that he's retired and,
Yep.
Gorgeous movie.
Yeah. So
good pick, Parker.
Thank you. I love this movie.
That's Porco Rosso.
That's Porco Rosso.
I think I got all my questions out.
Oh, good. I was gonna say, did we leave any?
Yeah, I don't remember what the second question was.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to get an annulment?
Well, I mean, that could be tabled for later because we didn't get married. So
I never said anything about marriage, Parker. I don't know where this is coming from. Okay, so criteria. Okay. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're...
Yeah.
Historical and technical relevance.
I'm not going to make the argument. It's Kane's.
No.
It's Kane's. It's Kane's.
Come on.
It's Kane's.
Porco Rosso is an underrated Miyazaki gem.
Yeah.
In a sea of films that have had more of an impact than Porco Rosso.
Yep.
No pun intended.
Yep.
It's Kane's point.
It's Kane's point. 100%.
How well do you think this movie's doing what it's trying to do?
Flawlessly. I genuinely cannot think of anything I would want to change about the way this movie is trying to do what it's trying to do.
You've got no problems.
I don't.
No
genuinely.
gripes.
No gripes.
Yeah.
Not a one.
Yeah, it doesn't land on the film that so many people, not even so many people, some people misunderstand it. That's not the film's fault. I don't think That's the only thing that comes to mind for me, is I'm like, but then I go, well, it works for me.
Yeah.
And this is a highly subjective show.
Indeed.
And we're over 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, I think Porco Rosso is doing what it's trying to do very, very well.
Yeah.
If it was in-flight entertainment, very entertaining.
Indeed.
If it's everything that it's trying to do with Porco as a character and what he's going through, done very, very well. Mm-hmm. As a piece of animation, fantastic to look at. Just absolutely wonderful to look at.
Stunning work.
Gorgeous.
Agreed.
Unsurprisingly so. Yeah, I got nothing. Right. I got nothing, especially after watching the Japanese dub where I'm just like, yeah, this thing rocks in both languages.
It does. It fully does.
It just really does. Okay. So Porco, point to Porco.
Yep.
Parker, do you like this movie or something?
I'm casual about it.
Yeah, you're kind of like halfway on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of halfway.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You liar.
Capital L love this movie. Like it's
capital L love this movie.
I connect with this movie on a level that I might not connect to any other movie on. Like it's just incredible. I love this movie so much.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, almost became a pilot because of this movie.
You almost died for this movie.
Died for this movie.
So you had a 50% chance of dying for this movie. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this movie is intensely watchable. Mm-hmm. So, but that's not even fair because it's a really easy thing to watch. That is what I mean by that is just everyone can and should watch this.
Yeah,
multiple times.
I agree.
It's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 2 points to Porco, 1 point to Kane. Taking a step back, Parker, is this better?
I think so.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a silly question that we haven't asked for any other movie on this podcast.
Oh, cool.
This is your favorite Miyazaki. Is it Miyazaki's best film?
No.
Okay. Okay, I was just curious.
Definitively, no.
It's the distinction between a favorite and a best.
Yeah.
Right? For me, I think Kiki's is... Okay, so Kiki's is my favorite. Mm-hmm. Totoro close second. Yours is Porco. Kiki's close second.
Yep.
On the count of 3, but we're both going to say what we think Miyazaki's best film is.
Okay.
Do you need time to think about it?
No, I'm good. I got it. Okay. 1.
Wait, no, hang on. Do I know what I'm going to say it is? Do I know what I'm going to say it is?
I'm locked in. I'm ready.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Princess Mononoke.
Spirited Away. I was almost Princess Mononoke. Okay. I was so close. I think Princess Mononoke might be the best.
I like Spirited Away is incredible. And like it is the same gap for me in personal favorites between Porco and Kiki is definitive best between Mononoke and Spirited Away.
Yeah. And see, the part of me that goes, the very small part of me that's like, Spirited Away is a little overrated. Mm-hmm. Wanted me to say Princess Mononoke. But Parker, the 6th station scene.
Yeah.
The entire thing with the train on the water that makes me sob now for some reason.
It is transcendent.
And I think I genuinely, because so often I think of Spirited Away and I think about the first half of the movie, which is kind of difficult to watch. There's just a lot of hardship that Chihiro is going through. Mm-hmm. But like that, like the ending, like everything with Zubaba, is that her name? No.
Zeniba.
Thank you so much. Yubaba and Zeniba.
Yeah.
Everything with Zeniba, I'm like, that really like just gets at you somehow. But then I go, oh, but the ape kind.
Yeah. Well, the argument I would make for Mononoke is Mononoke feels like Miyazaki's thesis statement. It feels like how he feels about life. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's my argument for it.
No, okay. Yes. No, you've swung me back around, because I was very close. I think Mononoke is probably.
Yeah. And Spirited Away is incredible and also has a lot to say about life. But I think if you're looking at his body of work, it feels like Mononoke is the magnum opus. It is the pinnacle of everything he's building and has built since. Everything can be traced back to what is going on in that movie, I think.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, if we ever cover that movie, we already have our answer.
Indeed. No episode.
But I'm going to let you say what we've reached with Porco Rosso.
Ladies and gentlemen, audience, Porco Rosso is better than Citizen Kane.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Woohoo! The only problem with this, Parker, is where do I put this on our list?
That's a good question. I gotta, yeah, you gotta send me that. We gotta figure that out here.
Okay.
We gotta sort
I've been
stuff.
adding things to that over time. I just stopped sending it to you every week. Mainly because I forgot to update it for a long time. That was our episode on Porco Rosso.
Indeed.
We've tackled Miyazaki to any extent.
Yep.
Which feels good. I'm happy with it. I love
am
Porco
too.
Rosso. I'm so glad we started with Porco Rosso. If anyone out there hasn't seen Porco Rosso, I hope that they stopped this episode and just watched it from like the first moment of this episode. But thank you for bringing this to the show, Parker.
Thank you for
and you know
this
what?
With me.
Happy birthday.
Aw,
this week.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah. Next time. No, I'm not going to do it. I was going to do the song. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Indeed it is.
1968. Wow, Parker, this surely is also one of your favorite movies, right? Right?
We'll get into it.
Right? You love. This is our first. We're going from our first Miyazaki to our first Kubrick.
Listen, I will.
Which is kind of fun.
I will spoil ever so slightly to say that by default this might be my favorite Kubrick film, but we'll get into that.
Strange Love. Okay, no, it's fine. I haven't seen. Here's the big reveal. I haven't seen 2001.
Yeah, big.
I've never seen 2001. I read half the book once.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. This has been a long time coming for me.
Indeed it has. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to 2001. In the meantime, everybody be careful out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Mm-hmm. And thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.